Welcome to Your Food Looks Funny. I am Marcus T, and today's episode is going to be some Thanksgiving inspiration.
I'm not eating that.
Alright, today I'm going to get right into some questions, some comments, some things to think about going into next week's Thanksgiving in this COVID time period. And also some inspiration based off of what I plan on doing for Thanksgiving next week. So stick around for some menu description that I'm going to have for what I plan on doing. And again, this goes back to my episode on how to wing it. But basically, I'm going to end up winging it. So I don't have a clear plan, which I normally would a week ahead of time. I don't at this point. It's just ideas that I've been throwing to the wall, which is my wife, and seeing if any of them stick. Because if she ain't going to eat it, there's no point in me cooking it. All right, so the first thing to think about is who's going to be there. Again, we're in the middle of COVID. Normally my family would have these large Thanksgiving gatherings. We'd have, at least 20 people, and that's a small gathering. I'm talking 20 to 50 is our range of what we would normally have. So we'd have a lot more food to go around. So a good assortment is a good thing when you have that many people. But if you're now reduced down to the immediate family that you have in your household, somewhere from 2 to 6 people we're thinking here. You have to keep that in account when you're thinking about what are you going to make. Okay? What are you going to make I think I've asked this on the last couple of episodes. How much is too much? So how much do you want to cook? And then how much do you want to look at for the next few days? That's what you have to really dig deep into, because it's the ultimate my eyes are bigger than my stomach kind of day. And you don't want to get to the point of having 8 or 9 dishes, and most people only average about 3 or 4 per plate. And then you're going to be asleep on the couch later and forget, oh yeah, it was corn in there too, and I forgot to put that on my plate. Don't be that guy. And we'll get into being asleep later and some reasons why you should stay awake, but they're kind of personal, so I'll tell you about that later. But again, how much is too much? Do you want to have the Shirley Caesar Thanksgiving? Do you want to be that person? You gonna have beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, you name it. You got everything on the menu, and then you end up with too much stuff and not enough space. Again, we're in a 1-bedroom apartment here. I mean, there's only so much stuff that I can cook and feasibly have space for, and to honestly say, do I really need it? Do I really need it? A good idea that I've been pitched with and I suggest to people is make the next few Thursdays Thanksgiving Thursday. So next Thursday is actually Thanksgiving. Why not have a meal that consists of Thanksgiving foods you didn't cook for the actual Thanksgiving day? So if it's just, 2 to 4 of you and you make 5 dishes on the high side, you got a meat or two, you got a couple sides, and you got a dessert, right? And then, but you missed out on something you would normally have. Maybe you skipped out on the dressing this year. Maybe you skipped out on the yams or the macaroni and cheese. Have it the next week. Create that into a meal for next week so you can get your fix on it. If you're just tying everything to the one day, I have to have turkey next week, or I have to have yams, or I have to have macaroni and cheese, you might have a problem. You might have a problem because you're going to get tired of something. By the time you get through that first plate and you're getting back up for seconds, but you're starting to feel a little bit of that itis tingle, you're not going to want to have it. So it's going to lessen the value of those yams if you're already 3/4 of the way full. Have it next week. Have it the week after. Have it for Christmas. Have it for New Year. You're probably going to be in the house for all of it. You might as well spread the wealth, right? Another thing tying into having too many options is having the same options. So a lot of the stuff I named is traditional Thanksgiving food from where I'm from. Your turkeys, your dressing, your macaroni and cheese, yams, corn. It's a starchy celebration. I get it. But do you really want to be around the same people and the same food? Think about what I just said there. The same people. So most of us have been on quarantine or limited interaction with most people since like March, right? We're in November. That's 8 months. For 8 months, you've been looking at the same people all the time. I love my wife to death, but if it's just going to be me and her eating, I can't be eating the same thing that I eat every year. It's just monotony. Am I right? No? It's just me? Coming from a chef's mindset of seeing food all the time, and now I've had 8 months of looking in my own refrigerator only to see the same 5 or 6 ingredients that I normally cook with. It's time for a change, people. Change up your holiday. But I'll caution you before I get too deep into this. Don't go so far from tradition that you alienate the meal. Again, don't go so far from tradition that you alienate the meal. Look, your brother came all this way so that he could have mom's macaroni and cheese, and you decided that you weren't going to put in the cheddar this year. You're just going to do mozzarella and cream cheese. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up off the top of my head. Don't make this be the time. And this goes back to episode 3, I think. When to try new food, okay? Don't let this be the time where you go so far out of the box that nobody wants to eat it. You don't want to be that person where every time your dish gets, or say somebody scoops a little bit of yours onto the plate, right? And then they go, I'm full, right before they get to your thing. And then they end up flipping their plate over in the trash can, and you see a bunch of your special macaroni and cheese piling up in the trash can. Hey, come on. It wasn't their fault, okay? Now's not the time to alienate the picky person, okay? Don't go so far out. You know, if they decide, hey, that sounds pretty good. Like, again, I run stuff past my wife before I fully implement these things, because it's usually not worth my time to cook it for just me. Sometimes, yeah, I get good enjoyment out of it, but it's hard to downsize on a lot of things outside of 2 people. Okay, if it's just for one, I mean, is it really worth the effort sometimes? Not really. So I would rather her be able to eat it and myself. That way, one of us is going to kill the leftovers, or it's going to be finished on the day of. And that helps to alleviate the entire process of having to sit there and look at it in the refrigerator for 5-6 days, and then, oh, it's moldy, got to throw it away. Not like I really wanted to keep it anyway, but you needed confirmation to make sure you knew that it wasn't going to be eaten. Now, a little bit fuzzy. Let's go ahead and trash that and try something else out next. So that goes through, again, same people, same food. Do you really want to have both? If you do, that's good. That's good. If all you've been looking forward to when you felt that fall crisp air come around was a pumpkin latte and the same traditional food you eat for every Thanksgiving, by all means, let that be your thing. But around these parts here, I need something new. Something has to be new, especially if I'm making it. I love to experiment, but sometimes it can be a landmine when I first see my wife's face as to me describing it or me cooking it. Because you've heard the theme song.
I'm not eating that.
And she really says that. So keep that in mind. Can you live without some of those staples? Having them later. Having them later is a big deal that will help you not make them a big deal on the day of. If you know you're going to have yams for Thanksgiving, you don't need to have them again. Or you don't need to have a half a plate full to get your fix until next Thanksgiving. Because a lot of these foods don't make it throughout the year. You're having hamburgers and tacos and stuff. And then on Thanksgiving, you have turkeys. And turkeys out here running for their life, you know, for the whole month leading up to Thanksgiving. Like, oh, it's our time. Why do we just have to eat turkey then? I know you're eating ground turkey. And I mentioned this before. But, you know, Butterball don't be breeding turkeys just for November. You can have one in June. It's okay. It's okay. Carve it out then, in the summertime, when you can eat it outside. You might actually look like the Pilgrims and stuff back then, minus all the genocide and such. I've said this again, and I'm about to get into what my plan is to wing it for Thanksgiving. But the question was, what can I change and not ruin it? So what can you change about Thanksgiving, taking the traditional elements that you already know, the traditional elements of Thanksgiving that you are used to, accustomed to, that you want to have, and adding a little spin to it to make this Thanksgiving a little bit different than the previous ones and the ones to come. But I'll get into those in just a second, but I have one more question. How much do you need to eat for Thanksgiving? And this goes back to me saying you don't need that many items if you're only going to have 2 to 4 to 6 people involved in this Thanksgiving. If you don't have a lot of people eating, a lot of mouths to feed, you don't need that many items to feed them with. Not only keeping the item number down, but the quantities down so that you can break the monotony the next day. If it's just 2 or 4 of y'all and y'all get sick of eating turkey, gravy, and mashed potatoes that day, what makes you think you're not going to be sick of eating them by Saturday? Okay, change it up. All right, eat something else and don't overeat of what you have. Save a little bit for the next day before you get sick of it. That way you don't have to, open your refrigerator and then slam it closed. Like, we ain't got nothing else. There is nothing else because you didn't plan for anything. Again, not overeating, not having too many items, and going along with that, you don't want to have itis. If you don't know what itis is, shame on you. But you don't want to be going to sleep just because you overate on Thanksgiving Day. Why? Because the Steelers play the Ravens, and I can't afford to be asleep at 8 o'clock at night when my team is about to play. Okay? I'll take a nap somewhere between the Cowboys playing because they're not watchable this year anyway. Lions, while I'm cooking, nap while the Cowboys are on. Hopefully I see some entertaining highlights when I wake up, but I can sacrifice that window in order to be up for the Steelers and the Ravens because it's must-see TV. Be there or be square. Also, I have some inspiration to the menu items that I will be using in our household. I will put a link in the description on yourfoodlooksfunny.com underneath this show episode. So underneath Thanksgiving inspiration in the description, there will be a link for the article that I'm using for inspiration myself. So a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, I did a Google search. So I figured it was probably just going to be a smaller gathering this year for Thanksgiving. But preparing ahead of time, just in case it was just me and my wife, which it looks like at this moment, it would be Thanksgiving for two. So I did a Google search for Thanksgiving for two. And what came up first, or one of the first two things that came up, was good enough for me. So it was, I think delish.com is the website. Again, I'll have the link on the website so you can just click on there and kind of see where I got these ideas from. But they had a couple of things that were what you're used to, just with a little twist on them. So for Thanksgiving, most people think of having a turkey, a whole turkey. And ironically, I just got rid of a turkey that we had in the freezer for about a year and a half, maybe longer. So every year my job was giving us a free turkey, and we would either be traveling or it would just be us two, and I didn't feel like cooking a whole turkey. It's just a lot of hassle, and I have a lot of football to watch, so ain't nobody got time for that. So I would get smaller versions of it. So a couple years ago, I got a turkey breast, which was a turkey roast. So it's just a turkey breast wrapped in order to roast it easier. Anywho, I decided to get 3 of those when it was only 3 of us, and they were 3 pounds each, which equals 9 pounds, and we had 3 different meats. If you don't get everything I just said, I just ran through it kind of fast. It was too much meat, people. It was too much meat. So this year, I've just gotten 1 3-pound roast. That'll be plenty for us, and we're also having meatloaf, which I'll get into in a second. But I'm going to take that turkey breast, and I'm going to roast it in the air fryer. Set it and forget it, all right? I'll put some herbs and some seasonings on it. I got a package of turkey gravy seasonings. I'm going ultimate laziness here, people. Make it as easy as possible. Look, scratch cooking is not gratified the way it used to be back in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s. It's okay to take shortcuts. Nobody will discount you for doing so, especially not in the house. You're not impressing anybody. Unless they're paying for it in the house, which I highly doubt, it's okay to use some shortcuts. You'll save yourself some time and headache by just grabbing a prepackaged seasoning or made gravy or something like that. It's okay. A lot of that stuff has come a long way. It's not as much artificial stuff as it used to be. Just look out for what you're getting if you're really particular about that kind of thing. So the turkey breast, no bones. I don't have to carve around anything. And then also it's very versatile, so I can turn that turkey breast that's left over, because we'll have 2 meats, so we'll have some leftovers. I can now turn that sliced breast into sandwiches for later, which will go along with some of the other stuff I'm about to talk about. Or I can use it in I've been craving fried rice recently, so if I take the turkey breast and chop it up, I can make turkey fried rice out of that. Very simple way to turn that into something that's completely different, so it's not like you're tasting Thanksgiving leftovers that have just been worked around a little bit, or you put lipstick on it. So taking that turkey, it's very versatile. Once I don't have to carve around bones, I don't have to worry about the extra carcass of the turkey that's just laying around being useless. So yeah, that's our version of the turkey for 2 this year. Much easier than having to roast a whole bird. It's just not worth my time. Also, our other meat, meatloaf. So I love meatloaf. My dad's nickname is Meatloaf. Okay, the singer Meatloaf is a person. That has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. I just felt like adding a third thing in there. But meatloaf is a very good thing to me. I doctor it up a lot. Now, I'm going to take some shortcuts. I use McCormick seasoning pack and make it real easy. Sometimes I make my own seasoning blends for it, but this just ain't the year. So a seasoning pack, I add a little bit of cheese to the mix. I'll do a half ground beef, half sage sausage to give you that nice fall feeling in there, some peppers, some onions. And this year, I'm going to wrap that thing in some thick smoked applewood bacon from our local butcher. You heard me right. I'm going to wrap that thing in some smoked applewood bacon. And then I'll roast that thing like it's an actual whole piece of meat that I didn't just mold together with breadcrumbs and such. And then I'm going to glaze it. That's right, I said glaze it after I've roasted with a golden mustard sauce. So mustard is a good fall taste. The sage from the sausage, the smoke from the bacon. I'm loving it already. I'm glad I just ate, or I'd be hungry all over again. I would probably have to stop this and then reevaluate my hunger. But I just ate, so I'm good. But again, some inspiration for next week. If you don't eat meat, you don't eat pork, that suggestion was not for you. It was for the person salivating and trying to rewind to listen to what I just. Other than that, that's my take on meats for this year. Not going overly complicated. I think a couple years ago we might have added ham or something else to it. It was too much. It was just too much food. So turkey, meatloaf, done deal. Not too much of each one, just enough to get us through lunch and dinner of maybe the next 2 days, and that's it. Also, in the article that I referred to, that's on yourfoodlooksfunny.com, on the link in the description, there was this thing that I ran into. It was called stuffing muffins. Stuffing muffins, okay? So these stuffing muffins were essentially like having stuffing or dressing, depending on if it's on the inside or the outside of the bird that you're referring to. In my family, we have dressing, but dressing muffins don't sound as good as stuffing muffins. So stuffing muffins are basically like the stuffing that you would put in the turkey, but now they're in their own individually served cups. So I'm going to use like a standard size cupcake or muffin tin and bake off individual muffins of stuffing. See where I got that there? But the link, check it out, and you'll see more of what I'm talking about. But the basis of it is using some sort of bread, okay? And you add some more of that sage sausage, your onions, your celery, your chicken broth, and a few other things. And it's basically like making a savory bread pudding with all the taste of Thanksgiving wrapped up into one individual sized portion, okay? The twist I'm going to do to this, now again, it uses regular bread in the recipe that's on the site. But for my version, I'm going to make out some cornbread a couple days ahead of time. All right. I'm going to let that cornbread dry out. Why do you let it dry out? Because you want it to be able to absorb the moisture, which is why you use bread in the first place. You want it to be able to absorb that chicken broth, those flavors from those other ingredients into the bread. And if it's still moist from when it's made, it won't absorb them as well. It'll come out ultimately mush. So you want it to be able to absorb those flavors. So I'm going to make some cornbread, let it dry out, cut it down into cubes, and use that as my bread. So it's like having cornbread dressing, but cornbread stuffing muffins. See where I went there with that? Keep up, people. All right. So other than that, I'll probably try to make some cranberry sauce this year. I was never really a fan of cranberry sauce just because it always looked like, I don't know what it looked like. It didn't look like food, though. You brought it out the can. It was just it looked like gelled beet juice. I wasn't eating it. I didn't understand what it was. So now when I've seen it made from fresh cranberries and, some nice orange zest and juice and sugar, and you boil it down, and that nice tart taste, it tastes better. But it goes with the savoriness of the turkey and the stuffing and all the other stuff that's going to be super fatty and carved up. If I'm going down swinging with a little tart on top of it. And like I said about that turkey, once you slice it down, perfect for sandwiches. So you take a little bit of the turkey, you slice that down, you get you a nice brioche bun, put a couple slices of turkey on there, turn your kitchen into your own Arby's, a little bit of the stuffing muffin, slice a piece off, put that on top of it, a little bit of the cranberry sauce, some turkey gravy. I'm getting sleepy thinking about it right now. So those are a couple of the inspirations that I will be using. As far as dessert, I have no idea yet, which is normally my favorite part about Thanksgiving, is coming up with a different dessert that I haven't made before. So maybe that'll be my episode for next week. We're going to do a whole episode next week. It won't be that long, but I'm just going to dive into desserts. Straight sweet tooth for Thanksgiving. Sorry I didn't have more ahead of time to help you plan for that. But if you make it the day before, the day after, that can be a family activity that you do over the weekend, just making desserts, cookies. We got Christmas coming up. So again, we'll keep that in mind for the next episode. Desserts, maybe. But I hope I gave you some Thanksgiving and ThanksCovid information. Everybody stay safe out there. Wear your mask. Don't be coughing over the turkey either. But check out the article that I referenced on yourfoodlooksfunny.com underneath this show, Thanksgiving Inspiration, episode 20. I'll see you guys on the next episode. All right.